This is an integration tutorial explaining the process between XPressEntry and Aeos by Nedap. We have Aeos' dashboard on the left-hand side right over here. Next, we have XPressEntry's server side here on the middle. And then we have our handheld badge here on the right. If you do not know what XPressEntry is a handheld badge verification that integrates with Aeos. What will happen is that we will pull all existing cardholders from the Aeos' database, including name, photo, ID, their current occupancy, as well as entrance groups and templates, and pulls all that information right back onto XPressEntry's server side. From there, that information will be pushed back onto the handhelds, which allows you to perform mobile access. A common scenario would be where we have a guard check on employees' badge, their badge is scanned, and then they will receive an entry granted or denied. As this is processed, that information is pushed right back onto XPressEntry, which in turn pushes that information back onto Aeos within seconds, working in one seamless transition as the guard continues its operation throughout the day. We will go through the integration process, how to set up the Aeos SOAP API and socket interface, enabling data manager synchronization, and lastly, performing some scans and test functionality, and then moving forward from there. There are a couple of prerequisites that need to be completed ahead of time before we move forward with the process. Please do note that XPressEntry is Windows only and is compatible on either a local machine or on a virtual machine. Please note that XPressEntry version 3.5.6553 and newer have been tested with compatibility with Aeos as early as 2019.1.4 and up to Aeos 2022.2.3. We recommend to have this installed in between these recommended versions. If you have other versions of Aeos, please contact Teleris and Nedap to confirm compatibility. Overall, Aeos must have the SOAP interface installed to obtain connectivity between them. Last thing that you will need to require is the Nedap API license, which is provided by Nedap themselves. This video assumes that, along with Aeos, you have already installed XPressEntry ahead of time along with the handhelds. If you have not done this, please look into our knowledge base at teleris.com and search for our documentation for installation. Let's go ahead and jump onto Aeos' system. If you're using Aeos Blue, let's perform the following steps. During Aeos' software installation setup, make sure you have selected SOAP web service in the selected desired options. If Aeos is already installed, simply make sure to run the setup again and not to make any changes except for that function. Once that's been done, we're going to jump onto Aeos, right over here, and enable the SOAP in the system properties. Let's go to administration. Next, we're going to go to maintenance, then to settings, and then to system properties. Scroll down until you see number 44.15. Make sure that this is checked, and then hit OK. Next, make sure to restart the Aeos application server service. Now, if you're using Aeos Classic, it's a little bit different, but know that it's still relatively the same. We want to make sure port 8443 is enabled for the API as well as 8035. This will allow us to connect XPressEntry with Aeos. Once that's been completed, let's go ahead and jump onto XPressEntry, and let's go ahead and perform the following. We're going to go to Tools, then to Settings. Next, we're going to go ahead and go to Data Manager. Select the type, drop-down menu, select Aeos, and then select Add. Hit Save at the bottom right. Once we have saved, let's go ahead and go to the Disabled Aeos here on the left-hand side. From there, we see some settings, and we see Enable Data Manager. Data Manager is what will allow us to connect XPressEntry with Aeos' database. Let's go ahead and enable Data Manager right over here, and then we're going to hit Save. Do note that you might see some information pop up here on the live log view, and that's perfectly fine if you see an error because we're still currently setting. For now, let's go ahead and ignore this error. We're going to jump right onto Setup Data Manager. From here, we see the following fields for the Nedap Aeos Data Manager, and we need to make some corrections. The server is going to be the DNS or IP address of the Aeos system, so you want to make that change to the area where the Nedap database is currently located. For me, I'm going to be putting in my hostname, so I'll be making that correction. The port should be 8443 as we have currently made that open by default. However, if you have made a custom port, please make sure to make that change for that. The username and password is the login credentials for the Aeos database and is used for SOAP calls. we will be using the credentials that we use to log on to Aeos's dashboard. Socket port, typically 8035, is used for events. The anti-passback events, these are valid access events that we're going to be looking to determine whether a cardholder has entered a facility. For enable user paging, you want to make sure that this is checked unless you have a very small system. And we have a couple of other settings over here, but we will be leaving this as default. Now we have a very important function right here, the auto assign areas to doors. We want to make sure that this is checked, and we want to assign an outside and inside area. For the outside area, we're going to be assigning it to the doors that have already been made by default on XPressEntry. For the outside, we're going to have outside for this one. And then for inside, we're going to set this to building. The default identifier type for unknown cards is going to be left for blank for now, but this is perfectly fine. What we need to do is that we need to synchronize with Nedap. Doesn't have to be necessarily a full sync, but once we have some information, we can finally complete the setup. For now, just go ahead and do a test connect, and then we're going to hit OK, and then we're going to hit save. On the very top right, make sure to hit partial sync now, and then we're going to jump right back onto Setup Data Manager. If we go back to the default identifier type for unknown cards, this should populate with what you have on your Aeos dashboard. For me, I'm going to go ahead and set this type for Desfire. And this is what will allow me to set up for muster. So you want to make sure that this is set up accordingly. Next, I'm going to make sure that I have TCP interface verbose. This will allow me to see any badge transactions happen on Aeos's dashboard. Now we're going to go ahead and jump onto the top right side over here, where it says Add Socket Interface. Let's go ahead and click on that. And then right next to it, we see Send to Access Points. Make sure that this is checked. For this section, we are currently setting up to have different card types to be read from Aeos's dashboard. For this example, I have currently Desfire as well as MyFair cards set up on Aeos's system. I'm going to go ahead and make those setups. For my port, it's going to be 8036. The APU name is going to be Nedap. Now for the username and password is going to be a little bit different. Maybe different for you, might be the same as for the Aeos login, but for me, it is completely different to have this with a different login credential. The prefix is actually going to be really important, and it will be completely dependent on if your cards will be actually read from XPressEntry to Aeos. If you have any questions in regards to the prefix, please feel free to follow us up on our help desk. For now, I'm currently setting up for Desfire, so I'm going to set my prefix to 4 zeros with the card type being Desfire. Now I'm going to go ahead and add another socket interface. And this is going to be the same process, but this time it's going to be 8037 for my port, as well as for my APU name to be Nedap2. For me, username and password is the same thing, but my prefix for MyFair is going to be a little bit different, which is going to be 0000 with an addition of 1212. Card type is going to be MyFair. And this is pretty much it that I have to set up. Please note that even if you do a test connect, it's not going to check to see if the socket interface is set correctly. So you want to make sure that you have your credentials set up properly from Aeos' side. Next, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump onto sync options right over here. Within sync options, we're going to be getting pull data manager occupancy, as well as pull data manager activities into XPressEntry. If you want to push XPressEntry activities to data manager, which is in this case Aeos, we want to make sure that this is checked. When this is selected, you'll be seeing activities being pushed back on Aeos itself. The default outside zone should be outside, as well as the default role should be entrant. Watch tables via software events and enable message queue allows us to actually see these transactions live time. If you do not have this selected, then you will not see transactions going in and out, and you'll be seeing it only through batch processing or any time that you decide to do a full sync. And we'll go more into that very soon. For now, because we have the socket interface set up, we are allowed to do software events and message queues, so we can do this. And then there's a couple other things that we do need to make sure that is selected. On the top left, we're going to go ahead and go to Add Edit Display. And then right here on External Data, we need the allow editing of external data to be checked. This is actually going to be important because without this, we won't be able to make any proper changes for the readers. Once that's done, make sure to hit save. Make sure to go back onto Aeos, and we're going to go back to the sync timers, and then we're going to go ahead and do a full sync now. Full sync now allows us to fetch all cardholder data, as well as entrance groups and templates that have been created for those cardholders, as well as doors. For full sync, you want to make sure that you set a time to when people aren't badging in and out frequently. Let's go ahead and hit set. And then under frequency, we're going to set to daily. Pick a time you believe that cardholders will not be badging in and out. And we're going to set this to, say, for example, 2 a.m. for this system. Go ahead and hit done. And then next, we're going to set up partial sync. Partial sync is just like full sync minus synchronizing cardholders. So for partial sync, we're just fetching entrance groups, templates, as well as other doors. Let's go ahead and hit set for partial sync. We're going to set the frequency to hourly. We're going to set this to 1 hour. Now, do know that you don't have to be strict with actually setting this up. You are free to make the changes as best as you want to. Just know that if you make the frequency too fast, you may slow down your system. So be wary of that. Other than that, feel free to hit save. And let's go ahead and close out XPressEntry settings. As you can see right here, within the add edit info, I do have a lot of my cardholders that have been transferred from Aeos's database. And if we check their permissions, we do see that their entrance groups have been transferred into what we call access groups. Groups have also been transferred, as well as the zones. Now, we do need to make sure that we make some changes. Within the zones, the rule of thumb is this for XPressEntry, where if you have a building that is not considered a safe area to evacuate to, you want to make sure that that's checked to zone as a hazard area only. If you have an evacuation zone in mind, and you say that this is actually considered safe, then we want to make the zone as a muster point. If it's also an outside area, usually that is also considered a muster point because that is considered safe. I have Aeos outside, so I'm going to have this selected to zone as outside, zone as a muster point. So I'm going to have that saved. I'm going to repeat the process for building. That's considered a hazard area, so I'll keep this in the hazard area. Main building, that's also considered a hazard area for me because that's not considered a safe zone. So I'll have these unchecked. And just continue repeating the process. Here we have the doors. The doors have been set up from Aeos itself, so there's really nothing much to really worry about. Next, we're going to go ahead and go on to readers. On the readers tab, we do see that our readers from Aeos is currently located here. There were 2 readers, 1, 2, entrance only, standard door, as well as standard door exit. On the top left, this is where our mobile handheld is located. Now, do note that this has to be made a correction in order to make muster to work. For the handheld, we're going to make sure that the external muster reader is actually set to a muster reader that we have assigned on A. So for mine is set to standard door exit. Once that's been selected, we're just going to hit save. And then we should be good to go. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and jump onto the handheld. On the handheld, we're going to click on the hamburger sign, the 3 lines on the top left. And then we're going to go ahead and set door. From here, we're going to set this to 2-reader entrance. The 2-reader entrance is actually a door that was created on Aeos's database, and we're going to be using that same door to be checking cardholders going in and out of the facility. So just like an actual fixed reader, a mobile reader will function in the same manner as you would with an employee coming in and out of a facility. The only difference is that you would now have a guard holding the handheld, and they will be checking people in and out throughout the day. So we have this card holder. His name is Gerard. Let's go ahead and scan his badge. And we can see that his badge is entry granted. If we were to take a look into entry and exit on XPressEntry, we can see that Gerard is actually within the facility. Now the main question is, does this also reflect onto Aeos's dashboard? Let's go ahead and check that. Let's go ahead and jump onto Aeos dashboard. We can see that a Gerard has entered into the facility as well. Let's say, for example, I want to change from entry mode to exit. So I'm going to tap this button right over here. Now let's go ahead and try to scan his badge once more and see how fast this transaction goes. So as we can see, Gerard has exited out, and within almost a fraction of a second, this also pops up onto Aeos' dashboard. So in one seamless transition, we can scan people's badges in and out without worry. Now let's say, for example, we get a random card holder that is actually not part of the facility. Let's try scanning this unknown badge. As you can see, it says user not found onto XPressEntry, and it also says that it's an unauthorized badge. But this actually belongs to a user who has not yet been added their badge onto Aeos. So let's go ahead and test that out. Let's go ahead and go back onto Aeos' system. And we're going to go ahead and go to person, employee. And this actually belongs to someone by the name of Edwin Waters. We're going to go and search up Waters. We're going to go ahead and go into his credentials. We see that nothing is set up for him for now, but we do see that he tried to set up on the handheld this particular badge right over here. Let's go ahead and enter that. This is a MyFair, so we're going to go ahead and put that into our system. We're going to add, and then we're going to hit OK. So we see this badge number being set up properly from Aeos. So now that we have the badge number set up, let's see what happens if we try to scan the badge now. So it says that access is denied for Edwin Waters. And also at the same time, we also see this on Aeos' dashboard. He would not have any authorization because we did not give him a template right over here. Let's go ahead and go to the dropdown template and let's give him a 24/7 with entrance groups template. And now he should be good to go. Let's go ahead and scan Edwin Waters' new badge one more time to see if that reflects properly. So we have an entry granted. So within seconds, we see that the template has reflected. And then if we look into Aeos' dashboard, we do see that Edwin Waters has popped up. So in one seamless transition, because we set up the software events properly, we do track this lifetime and we can get badges lifetime. So say, for example, you have thousands of cardholders coming in and out, and you need to make multiple changes without having to worry about going in and out of the software. In addition to this function, we are also able to actually search for other people's badges. If someone lost a badge, you can actually search for their badge. And say, for example, we have someone by the name of Clement. Make sure that you check his credentials properly, and you can actually submit him into the facility. Also in XPressEntry, also on Aeos' dashboard. Throughout the day, you'll start to scan more people in and out. So there's one more function that we need to test out, and that is muster mode. To enable muster mode, we were just going to go ahead and go to the top right over here. If you do not see this function, make sure you go to Tools, then the Settings, and make sure under General that you have muster enabled right over. And just to double check, make sure that the handheld can also read muster. So on the left-hand side, we're going to go to handheld functionality, and we're going to enable muster over here. Make sure to hit save, and then close. Next, go ahead and click on muster. And we can see the people who are currently missing in this facility. At the same time, you'll have an appointed device coordinator actually going to muster mode themselves. They will click on the hamburger icon, the 3 lines right over here, and they'll be going to switch mode, and they'll be going to muster mode right over here. We can see that the missing currently matches with the server side, which is perfect. You have an evacuation trail, people start coming in one by one, and we start scanning people's badges. Let's go ahead and scan Gerard's badge. And he has made it safely into the safe zone. And that also reflects back onto Aeos' dashboard. Same thing if we go with Edwin Waters. Muster success as well. We can also search for the people too, in case if they lost their badge in the middle of a panic. You can even swipe their badge as well. Once all head counts have been made and made sure that everyone is safe, go ahead and just finish the muster, and then you can create a report from here. And that's how you perform muster, and that's how you perform entry and exit. This has been an integration tutorial between XPressEntry and Aeos. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about our products, please visit Teleris.com for more information.